fair. That is not your nature to just stand wherever you're told to stand. Give it a try.
That was a strange reaction to Senator Bernie Sanders during the official Senate swearing in, where Kamala Harris told him to stand in a specific place and tell him, I know it's not in your nature to stand where you're told to stand. I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, Cenk, but it seemed a little like she's trying to say something. You get what I'm saying? Like there was more to it than telling him to do something.
Like that old TYT clip. It was a little aggressive. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, look, it's a joke. And it's true, Bernie is not good at doing what he's told to do. Except he did under Biden, and I thought that was the problem, not the solution. But anyways, overall, not a big deal. They joked around, God bless. And I mean, if she's got a little passive aggressive in her after losing an election, I'm gonna let it slide.
Okay, all right. Are you not merciful? Now, if she was intending to be passive aggressive, what could be behind it? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and speculate that it could be the fact that Senator Bernie Sanders, especially after the election, has been calling out the corporate corruption of the Democratic Party. And when it comes to corporate corruption, well, let's just say the Harris campaign didn't raise billions of dollars out of thin air. And so just before the election, Senator Sanders made these comments while on CNN.
This should not be a close election. And I think the Democrats, win or lose, have got to take a very hard look at themselves and ask how it could be that a significant majority of working class people in this country are prepared to vote for Donald Trump. And the truth is, what has got to happen is the Democrats have got to wake up and say, you know what? Instead of worrying about big money interests and campaign contributions from billionaires, we got to stand with the working class of this country. And we need an agenda that is a popular agenda that speaks to Democrats and Republicans.
Senator Sanders says Democrats need a popular agenda. Stop listening to your corporate donors. The corporate capture of the Democratic Party is a liability. And to be sure, following that interview, the Democrats went on to lose the presidential race. They lost control of the Senate, and Donald Trump won the popular vote. Now, immediately after the election, Senator Sanders also released a fiery takedown of the Democratic Party, something that we covered extensively here at TYT. But in case you missed it, he said it should come as no great surprise that the Democratic Party, which has abandoned working class people, would find that the working class has abandoned them. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they're right. Will the big money interests and well-paid consultants who control the Democratic Party learn any real lessons from this disastrous campaign? Will they understand the pain and political alienation that tens of millions of Americans are experiencing? Do they have any ideas as to how we can take on the increasingly powerful oligarchy, which has had so much economic and political power? And he comes to the conclusion that probably not. So again, it's my speculation that if Kamala Harris was intending to be salty during that interaction, this could have something to do with it. But I have a lot to say about some of the latest reporting in regard to the grifters who took a chunk of those billions raised by the Harris campaign and the possible self-dealing that's taking place here when it comes to some of these consultants. Before we get to that, any thoughts, Cenk?
Yeah, of course they caught feelings about what Bernie said overall, and of course Bernie is right. Look, I love that he said it, and I'm glad to see that he's back because he was in a bit of a hibernation because he thought he was going to get all these progressive bills passed by working with Joe Biden. But having said that, I think that there is still a problem. He doesn't name names. So he talks about political consultants and politicians, but if he named a single name, then Washington would explode, right? And they'd be like, how dare you, your colleagues, right? So he doesn't do it. And it becomes harder to fight, right? Without bad guys, it just seems like an amorphous cloud you're fighting against. So if I was him, I'd name every name there is.
So every elected lawmaker in Congress that's a Democrat? I mean,
pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
I would.
all right.
And I'd give specific examples. There's so many of them that sold us out so badly. Like, for example, when they wanted to negotiate more drugs to the prices of more drugs, all the Democrats who take money from the drug companies came in and said, no way. And they fought tooth and nail. They should all be named. There should be giant posters with their face and name on it saying these are the crooks who sold you out to the drug companies. But no, everybody's too polite and civil. So if they think that Bernie Sanders is a barn burning populist, nah, he's a cuddly teddy bear. There should be a real raging populist in the Democratic Party that names names and takes these corporate goons, grabs them by the shorts and throws them the hell out of the Capitol. But we haven't seen that in the Democratic Party because mainstream media would, of course, do the biggest character assassination you have ever seen in your life if anyone dared to be honest in Washington.
Yeah, that literally does not exist in the Democratic Party. Like, I'm thinking about even like the most progressive people in the Democratic Party, and I would not label them, populist. But look, let's get back to Kamala Harris, because I think this latest reporting from Sludge is something that should actually be investigated, okay? Because look, we've talked a lot about where the money went, the campaign money went. But what's amazing is the clear examples of self-dealing that's taking place here. And I don't understand how this is at all acceptable. So thanks to new FEC filings, we learned some pretty damning new information about something called Future Forward PAC. And that's actually the main dark money group funding the Harris campaign. Now, Future Forward PAC spent more than $500 million during the 2024 campaign cycle, making it by far the highest spending PAC ever. A substantial portion of its funding came from its nonprofit arm, which does not disclose its donors, but reportedly received large donations last year from Bill Gates and Michael Bloomberg, okay? So Future Forward PAC is one of the PACs, pro-Kamala PACs, that raised a significant amount of money on her behalf. Now, the question is, what did they then spend the money on? And that's where the potential self-dealing takes place. So Future Forward specifically paid a company called GCJ Research almost $18 million for their work on the campaign. And that's pretty fishy because GCJ Research is named after founders of Future Forward PAC. Okay, and that includes Gaurav Sharol, Chauncey McLean, and John Formowitz. Okay, those are three individuals who founded Future Forward PAC, and then Future Forward PAC raised a bunch of money on behalf of Kamala Harris's campaign, and then spent $18 million on other like election-related companies that were like that these individuals were part of. Okay, so let me give you some specific examples. One of the things that the firm did during the election was create online and text message surveys. GCJ Research was Future Forward's second highest paid vendor as of October 16th, according to the FEC. So the folks at Future Forward raise money for the campaign and then funnel that money to other organizations that the same people who founded Future Forward are employed by. How is that not self-dealing? Okay, and the connections don't end there. So McLean's company, PFB Media, was also paid by Future Forward PAC. The company was paid more than $1.2 million by the PAC for ad production, according to FEC records. How is this legal? In November of last year, Li Fang also reported that another research firm, Open Labs, which also does business under Blue Rose Research, received another $759,707 from Future Forward. The founders of the Super PAC also work at Open Labs. Guys, how is this okay? It's like they raised money not to help Kamala Harris win. They raised money to pay themselves. This is crazy. This is insane.
Yeah. So look, we don't know if they spend that money more efficiently than a different polling company would have spent it, but we do know that they gave your money to themselves. We do know that, okay? And remember, a lot of the consultants especially if they're working on the part where they collect the money and then spend it on ads, get 15%. So the more money that they raise, even if it's counterproductive, even if you're kissing donor ass and costing yourself tons of voters, they have a financial incentive to keep doing that, even if it costs them the election, because they're going to raise more money from those same donors. So they've got already one terrible incentive in that 15% that they get. That's usually how it works. And then they have now a second terrible incentive, which is take all your money and funnel it to their own companies. I mean, if this company was a really respected polling organization that didn't employ the top 3 people in the Kamala Harris campaign, then I'd say, well, I mean, you got to do polling, and apparently they spent it in that direction, okay? But it does employ the top 3 people. In fact, it's named after the top 3 people in the Kamala campaign. And on top of that, they had almost no contracts before the Kamala campaign. They had one $7,000 contract in the last cycle. That's it. So this thing has no experience, no nothing, and all of a sudden the people that handle the money of the Kamala campaign, they just decided that they should get $18 million of it. And I guess they did some polling. Was it really worth $18 million? You'll never find out. How much of it was margin? You'll never find out.
It wasn't worth the paper it was printed on, Cenk. Okay, like she performed far worse than the polling indicated. Far worse. Come on.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I'm just telling you, like, we're being fair. The content of it. If they would like to come out and say, oh no, look, here's how much we spent, here's how little margin we made, and here's how it compares to the other vendors, I'd be thrilled to get it. But they'll do no such thing. This is the last time you'll ever hear about it, because mainstream media doesn't care about corruption like this. They love corruption like this. So they're not even gonna talk about it. And they love Kamala Harris, they love Joe Biden, they love all corrupt politicians. And so all these stories never ever get covered. But they're so proud that they raised billions. You didn't win the election. You have nothing to be proud of. Nothing. If you ran the Kamala Harris campaign, you're an utter failure. Yeah, maybe you're gonna have a nice new mansion wherever you live, based on good, hardworking Americans who believed in you and donated to you, let alone the giant corporations. But you didn't accomplish a damn thing. You ran a terrible campaign and you lost to Donald Trump, who you said was an idiot and a monster. So what does that make you?
I mean, really, it's so true. It's remarkable how little these people actually care about the future of the country and how they see a presidential election as an opportunity to make some money. I mean, to the detriment of the American people. It's amazing. But there you have it. All right.
I loathe the corruption. I loathe it. And so any reporter that isn't talking about the corruption of establishment Republicans and Democrats is not a real reporter. They're just a marketing executive. That's all, period.
And guys, we gotta show some love to Sludge. I mean, the whole point of that publication is to call out corruption in our political system, and they're consistent on it. I really appreciate the work they do. And this particular piece was published by Donald Shaw over at Sludge. So check it out.
Yeah, all right, thank you, Sludge. Great job.
Let's take our final break. And then when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about this incredible story having to do with the right wing's reaction to an Allstate CEO and what he had to say about the terror attack in New Orleans. We'll be right back.